Hi, everybody. Thanks very much for joining me. My name is Jonathan. I head up alliances and partnerships for MetaRouter, based here in the UK, but I look after us globally. I'm very happy to be presenting today our new Accelerate program designed specifically for partners to help us accelerate our customers' journey into server-side data collection. So without further ado, I'll kick us off and I'll explain a little bit more about who we are, what MetaRouter is, in case you don't know, and then what specifically the Accelerate program is and why we've created and what we're hoping to achieve. So if I'll dive in, it's I guess it comes as no surprise to any of us that we are facing a lot of challenges in the digital space at this moment. you know, I've added in the eventual in brackets here that, at some point we know cookies are going to die, whether it's Google who takes over or someone else, but we know that this way of working is coming to an end. And so there's a lot of jostling in this space in terms of what's next, how is it going to work? This is creating its own sort of collection of problems. There is a lot of loss of signal data, so customers are experiencing lack of data quality or quantity because of the way cookies are being utilized, or because of the way cookies are being blocked in some cases by ad blocking technology or others. Also, anonymous user tracking is becoming more and more difficult. It's becoming more harder to understand or make any sense of them. Privacy is on the rise, and we are seeing some huge fines out, in the market for malformed scripts or third-party tags being corrupted or intercepted and data being breached. And obviously, poor site performance is not something new, but this is just a reality in the world we're living in terms of how websites have kind of grown and been developed over the years. So it's always interesting to keep an eye on this one. Every year it comes out, and every year we're like, wow, it's unbelievable how much it has grown. I remember, in my beginning of my journey in MarTech, when there were 150 odd different companies in this space, and now we're looking at 14,000. And the problem with this is that every one of these new technologies needs data. Data is the oil in which everything runs. And so, everyone wants a piece of this data. And what this has caused, and the world we currently live in, is, your digital properties. You may or may not have a tag manager, but you have this whole plethora of tags, which are all sitting on your website, which are all collecting data, understanding what is happening on your website, who's browsing it, and it's shipping that data back to its vendor. And you have no say in the matter in terms of what's being collected, how it's being collected, how it's being utilized. And this is really, part of the reason why third-party cookies are, under such scrutiny at the minute, is because it is a bit of a free-for-all in terms of, how data is being created and how it's being utilized. And we've kind of seen firsthand, the damage that this can cause. In fact, this is a real live case study. It's actually one of our clients, and this is probably what gave birth to MetaRouter as a platform in the first instance, is where, a tag took down a large retailer site for 24 hours over, what was Black Friday, and they estimated a loss of revenue of about $16 million. So, these things are happening. This is becoming more and more prevalent. So as a result, we're seeing organizations, being, I wouldn't say less worried about cookie deprecation, because obviously that's coming. It's just, that's a technology chance. I think the governance and compliance and security and risk management of data that's being created, data that's being collected, that is definitely more at the forefront of organizations' concerns, especially regulated industries like financial services, insurances, or retail clients, travel, for example. All of these, which have huge amounts of customer data being generated. The risk and compliance that they are having to jump through is becoming more and more of a forefront in terms of what they're thinking. And like I mentioned, every week in the news, there's a new script that's being tested and exposed for data breaches, lawsuits being launched, fines being issued by the GDPR Commission. So this whole third-party ecosystem is really, in a state of flux at the minute. So what we are proposing is the moving to server side, but we've seen historically fairly slow adoption in terms of why customers are not moving across. And I think there's this perception around, oh, server side is it's too complex, it's too expensive. I can't do the same things I was doing in the way we're currently working. There's measurement inconsistencies. I can't. The governance and privacy enforcement is just not there. I don't have the same controls mechanisms in place, or there's a reticence to sort of move away from where huge amounts have been spent in current solution stacks, working in the way it is. There's an old adage: if it ain't broken. Today cookies aren't broken, in the sense of they haven't been deprecated, so they're still operational. Yes, in some senses they are broken, as we've shown by the big fines and data loss, etc. But for most intents and purposes, these things are still functioning to some extent. So why are we proposing MetaRouter? So MetaRouter, first and foremost, is a data pipelining platform. So we are, let's call it a server-side tag management solution that does things slightly differently, right? So we are completely private cloud, a first-party data collection, enrichment infrastructure. So if you think about a technology stack, if you think about, you have a CDP or a data warehouse, you have your activation platforms, we very much sit at the left-hand side of that stack. We are really focused on data collection, data enrichment and transformation, and then data integration. So it's about collecting that data and putting it where you need it. And what we are built on top of is this data and security and compliance layer. So everything that we do is governed through this data and security and compliance layer. So what an organization should look like after a MetaRouter implementation, if you think of that first image where I showed where we have this massive spaghetti junction, really what MetaRouter proposes to be is the single and only tag that sits on your website that deals with data collection. And it's quite important that I differentiate, because there are other tags that sit on your website that do other things like on-page personalization or tracking of movement and all of these other things. But in terms of data collection, MetaRouter should be the only tag that sits on your website. MetaRouter then collects that information on behalf of the brand. So we deploy into a brand's own infrastructure. So when we talk about single tenant or private cloud, we are actually deploying our infrastructure into a customer's own environment. And this means that the customer is actually collecting their own data on their own behalf in their own software, and the customer is deciding where that data is going and when and what. So you can decide of all the data that is gathered, which bits you want to ship to which endpoint at which rate. So if you're thinking about, you may have data storage like a BigQuery or a Snowflake, where you want all of your data to go, but you may have AdTech and MarTech and CDP vendors, which might receive different components of those data all in real time, right? So AdTech might be, World Gardens might be more interested in CAPI conversions or conversion data. CDPs are going to be definitely more interested in the customer journeys. Analytics more, again, interaction. So all of this data can be collected once and once only by MetaRouter, and then bifurcated and shipped downstream to wherever it needs to go in whichever format it needs to be in. So we can collect anything, any data, page events, track events, identify events, screen events, group events. So anything that can be configured in standard tag managers can be configured in MetaRouter to be collected. So we have parity with what you are doing today, except it's being done by you and not by a third party. While we are doing this, we solve your governance complexity in terms of if you have multiple sites, multiple use cases, each one of those are introducing a new layer of quality, compliance, legality, risk, that have to be assessed and addressed before you are able to activate that. And by deploying MetaRouter, because we have one single point of collection, one single point of distribution, we are now providing that single control plane. So quality, risk, compliance, value, all of those things are governed only once before it is then shipped downstream to to apply to all of your use cases downstream. So when we're talking about parity, so obviously stripping tags off of a website is is always a concern, especially for marketing departments. We rely heavily on our Facebook ad spend, and we need to understand the attribution and measurement that's happening when ad boost. So the way MetaRouter does that is we have patent pending sync injector technology, which does a server-side asynchronous call out to those platforms of the tags we replace. And the same IDs that we've been generated by that tag, by that user when they visit your site based on the conversion, we get those IDs and we are able to append those into the event stream and then ship that information downstream. So if you think about an activity happening on a website, that activity event hits MetaRouter sync injector fires out to any of the integrations that you work with, any of the IDs that you care about. It will get those IDs, and I say IDs because most vendors have more than one. Google has 3 or 4, Facebook have 2 or 3, Pinterest have, Newstar have. So all of these IDs are then built into an ID graph, and those are attached to events, and then you are ready to ship those downstream. Again, you can obfuscate those, so some platforms downstream might not care about all of the IDs, so you can only ship the relevant information to the relevant downstream platform. We can also do this cross-domain, so MetaRouter can be deployed across multiple domains. Those domains all fire their events into the ingester. The ingester understands which events are coming from which domain, but also which user is on each domain, and then it will start providing those IDs into your CDP or your data warehouse, your analytics platform, where those events can be stitched, so you can start creating those cross-domain profiles. And the beauty is we are, as well as being sort of agnostic in terms of the data we receive, agnostic in terms of where you want that data to be sent, we are also agnostic in terms of where you want to host. So if you do all of your workloads on Google Cloud, great, so do we. If you do it on Amazon, great, so can we. If you do it on Azure, again, so can we. So wherever Kubernetes can be deployed, we can be deployed, and we can deliver the solution. So that's MetaRouter, and then why you'd care about MetaRouter per se. So what is Accelerate, and why have we created Accelerate? So obviously we've touched on some of the key elements in terms of complexity, cost. These are all concerns that organizations have, and just because perhaps the third-party deprecation pressure is not as high as it was, I think that the governance pressure is. And so looking at this from a couple of different lenses in terms of yes, we can move you away from third-party data collection to server-side, but we can also provide you this governance layer. And so what we're trying to do is make that accessible and make that fast. And so that's what MetaRouter has specifically been designed to try and achieve. And so, an easy deploy starter kit that helps you move to server-side data collection, where we have predefined packages and we have a fixed price against those packages, again, to take away a lot of the ambiguity in terms of what it looks like or how much it might cost. It's designed specifically to allow for rapid deployment and faster time to value, and that time to value is almost the more important bit, right? Is how quickly can we show the results? So lowering the barrier to entry to server-side data collection, we want to make it accessible. We want people to be able to move in there without having all of these pitfalls, long list of pitfalls that they are putting ahead of addressing the problem. And also we understand that you might start at a small scale, you might have a very specific initial use case, but you want to grow, and we want to make that really, really easy for customers to be able to say, I want to start here, but I want to get there. And so making those upgrade paths easily and accessible at any time is another key. So we've designed Accelerate to have 2 distinct pathways, one for our technology partners, where we are really looking at maximizing the ROI they can drive by delivering them higher quality, real-time, formatted, consented data. And then also for solutions partners to be able to provide higher levels of services into their existing clients to help those clients move into more modern data collection technologies. So if we look at those specifically, so for technology partners, again, really it's about helping your customers move away from utilizing maybe a third-party tag. We're seeing a lot of customers say to their vendors, I don't want to deploy another tag. I don't want to have another tag on my website, which is slowing down, the load times, which is, hammering our SEO lighthouse scores, which is dropping us down the page rankings. We're trying to optimize our site. We're not trying to add more latency to it. And so switching to data server-side data collection, is going to help them improve their web performance, but it's also going to help you receive more data, because as we know, third-party tags are being blocked a lot by ad blockers, for example, and we are seeing the prevalence of ad blockers really rise. A study done by Backlink Info showing that up to 40% of third-party tags never fire, never create any data, never ship that data to their third-party endpoints because they never loaded in the first place. Obviously, by enriching that data with persistent anonymous IDs, cross-domain IDs, service-synced vendor IDs, we can enable you to build richer custom segments and also to increase the activation channels, because you now have all these additional IDs which you can start utilizing for activation. Another thing that this kind of partnership creates is by bringing your technology into the server-side data collection and obviously being able to expand it out and start removing other tags, you are now at the center of their data collection strategy, and it connects you into the rest of their data ecosystem. So this could be a powerful tool for starting to triangulate between different technology sets in order to maximize the value. And again, it's really about that rapid deployment. So how quickly can we get you from where you are today to collecting server-side data and pushing that into your platform? So typical architecture, and again, this is there could be a lot of different ways to approach this, but what we're typically seeing is MetaRouter would be sort of stood up. It will be deployed on the customer website. We will be collecting those behavioral events for you. We will be providing that persistent anonymous ID, which can be utilized up to 12 months. We persist that ID. It's longer in some cases. That data is shipped to MetaRouter. We can sync for any IDs. Again, this is defined by you, so which ones you care about. Maybe some of them will be relevant, some of them might not be. And so, again, this is designed. We deliver it into your destination, be that your own platform or whether you sit on top of a data warehouse or you pull from somewhere else. We deliver it into where you get it or utilize it from. And then obviously you apply your use cases. And again, this is different for all technologies. So I've tried to list some examples, some of the ones that we're seeing out in the wild at the minute. Again, some of these might be relevant to you, some of them might not be. You might have your own specific one. Again, we are the data provider. You guys are the brains that's on top of that data that are utilizing it. So if we can capture that data, or that data is being generated by the website, we can ship it to you in whichever format you need so that you can use it to drive whatever use cases you have. But what we're seeing at the minute is things like helping technologies move to server-side data collection, helping with real-time data use cases. Again, sometimes if you think about organizations with architectures where everything's being delivered to a data warehouse, a reverse ETL tool is being used to ship that data up into other platforms. There's a lag there. Whilst we could still deliver to the data warehouse, we could also deliver in real time to your platform. So we could deliver simultaneously so that we can drive both real time and more batch operating use cases. Anonymous to known user journey profiling. So understanding a user for up to 12 months by having a persistent ID, helping you to improve your customer segmentation. Obviously, because we will be driving a lot more data, we can drive your own platform utilization and consumption if you are ingesting the data yourself. We can help with media activation use cases, CAPI integrations, and obviously the list goes on. So very happy to discuss that with anyone interested. On the other side, so looking more at solutions partners, obviously helping customers deal with the cookieless feature or moving to server-side data collection. Here is really about wanting to remove tags, wanting to be able to control the data that's being collected and being shipped. Helping them with the compliance side of things. Again, this is super key. We're seeing this in a lot of financial institutions or highly regulated industries like pharma, for example, where that single control plane really is the key reason why they are looking to move to server side. They cannot risk having this data being collected and shipped to all of these different third parties. So really maximizing the control and minimizing the risk is a key here. Again, I've already mentioned the services revenue, so we want to be able to help you build a robust services practice. Again, the implementation spans so many things from data consultancy, data strategy, first party, ID resolution, strategies, data collection, data governance, compliance enforcement, activation. All of these elements sit under the services that can be generated. And if you think the data collection is only the first bit, it's the usage of that data where it really starts exponentially growing, because we can feed BI dashboards to build real-time dashboards, analytics engines, internal or external. So the possibilities are really endless. And again, really pushing that time to value. The focus here is specifically on reducing the scope to be able to rapidly deploy and maximize the value of server-side data. So similarly to technology partners, we have a very similar type of implementation here, where MetaRouter is deployed. We will collect those behavioral events. Here we might include consent as well, and we might enrich that. Again, this could be applicable to technology partners as well. These are not exclusive. The persistent IDs, the third-party IDs being synced, we might then load them into, again, wherever the customer requires them to be that a CDP, a data warehouse, whatever it might be. We might also do direct CAPI integrations. And again, this is also available to technology partners. If you don't have CAPI integrations, we can send the data to the CAPI integration as well as to yourselves. Obviously, you then have your services business that sits on top of this data store wherever it's being delivered. And then again, we have some use cases of where we're currently seeing it being utilized in the wild. So again, helping customers deal with the cookieless future rhetoric, or helping them remove tags from their website if it's down to performance, going to that server-side data collection, the governance and security controls, helping them with ID resolution strategies, anonymous addressability. Again, all those IDs are being delivered into your own data warehouse. Profile attribution enrichment. So as well as IDs, we are able to tap into other third-party or second-party data stores and enrich with additional attributes. Real-time use cases, again, as you mentioned, and then attribution and measurement. Again, this is a key area where we're seeing a lot of decline. I think especially when Google did their initial test of that 1%, and people saw, could already see the drop-off, and everyone's thinking about how are we going to attribute, how are we going to measure. Again, if you control the data collection, if you own that, you can then start building your own attribution and measurement models within your own organization. And obviously, there's going to be way more based on your specific technology. To wrap up, then, I think it's only fair to talk about how it's packaged. I know everyone's going to be thinking, how much does it cost? And I'd love to be able to say, oh, and for $5.99 today, sign up. But ultimately, this is a flexible package. Everyone's going to have different needs. What we have tried to do is slim it right down so we can get to the lowest cost possible to help accelerate the adoption. But again, these things are all configurable. So one thing I will say is what we are really trying to do is make sure that we're not trying to do a full-blown, server-side data collection, full tag replacement project with Accelerate. That is more of a MetaRouter full implementation. This is really designed, quick, deployed onto one domain. Have a standard specification of events we're trying to collect. Fire those events into a single destination. So everything is coming sort of out of the box, no custom development, no sort of, running across multiple websites, multiple different event classifications, doing multiple enrichments, etc., etc. So this is really, a slimmed down package. with some basic configuration elements, and then we give you this ability to sort of bolt on all of these additional features. So do you want to start removing more tags? Do you want to start adding cross-domain IDs? Do you want to be able to filter out bot traffic? Do you want to do conditional data routing? So all of these things again become available. And so I urge you, if this is something that sounds interesting to you, please reach out to me. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's figure out exactly what you want. And let's build that package specifically for you so that we can support your business. We can give you the data that you need. We can help your customer service side, and we can all win together. So please, that's my email direct. If you want to get in touch, by all means, please message me. And thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye.